This is Stan J. Caterbone and Advanced Media Group. It's now 7 a.m. on Thursday, April 9th, 2020. I'm going to read a letter that I've written to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, back on July 16th, 2007. Federal Bureau of Investigations, J. Edgar Hoover Building, 935 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C., 20535-001, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Regarding important matters. Dear Sir or Madam, first of all, I received a personal letter from Senator Arlen Specter on July 11, 2007. It was held in the mail system or was stolen for almost a full 30 days. I have had so many complaints regarding the same that I filed a complaint with the United States Postal Inspector. I have a hacker that turns on my screensaver every 30 seconds or so. They have written me, but I never received the follow-up to the investigation as the letter promised. I'm attaching a copy of the letter with the hopes that you could follow up and make certain that my complaints are not being subverted. If you are not aware, I have a federal whistleblowing and federal false claims act case that I need to file against the United States Attorney General as required by law. This case involves the former Department of Defense contractor International Signal and Control PLC, or ISC, formerly of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, I also have an unprecedented case of obstruction of justice that surrounds that case, and I am evaluating the merits of waiting until your subcommittee finds a resolution to the U.S. Attorney General controversy before I file my action in the United States Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. I am certain that any filing before would only be subject to further misconduct. My cases now before the United States District Courts and the various courts of the Commonwealth have been subjected to an unprecedented array of judicial misconduct. However, I realize that you do not have the authority or the jurisdiction to intervene, so I am told. For approximately the past 19 months, I have had the ability to communicate telepathically. I have spent much time researching this ability through the various intelligence agencies' declassified documents. My problem is that I am connected 24/7 with a person, parentheses, Sheryl Crow, that is compromising my interest and my intellectual property at a time when I am litigating civil and criminal proceedings. My business interests are also greatly compromised. I do not know how I became telepathic or if I was trained without my knowledge and/or consent. I need to seek help in trying to disconnect. The person that is connected to me subjects me to a brutal array of mental and psychological abuse. I firmly believe that they are being used as a medium for this purpose. I have waited 20 years to resolve my issues in a court of law, and this is not a good time for this ability to assert itself. And of course, it is very suspect considering my Federal False Claims Act allegations. Unfortunately, I've had personal dealings, quote unquote, with the Department of Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, that dates back to 1990 when I had contracts with the National Institute of Standard and Technology, or NIST, and DARPA. I know that they study and research paranormal activities and technologies, including remote channeling. My whistleblowing activities and my knowledge of the fraud within ISC back in 1987 has put me in direct scrutiny with the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, and the National Security Agency, the NSA, due to the relationships with ISC and, of course, my very public condemnation of the fraud. I don't know if any of your agents have any experience with this type of situation, but there are definitely national security issues that may need to be addressed. There are persons that can actually eavesdrop on this type of communication, and I'm constantly being questioned on matters related to ISC and other foreign affairs. My knowledge of the Middle East is quite extensive, and there is always the possibility for someone to glean information for illegitimate reasons. In the past few weeks, I've downloaded a declassified document dump from the Central Intelligence Agency that contained hundreds of bibliographies from the Soviet Union dating as far back as the 1930s regarding this subject. It appears that they have had more knowledge and expertise than the United States. This brings me to a disclosure that may or may not be concerning. Over the past several months, I've had 2 contacts and intimate conversations with an 80-year-old Russian immigrant regarding my problem. She seemed to be knowledgeable of the subject matter and made several disclosures, which may or may not be true. She said that she was a psychologist with a doctorate degree and former employee of the Pennsylvania State University system. She also disclosed that her former husband was imprisoned and tortured by the KGB. I look forward to your response. Sincerely, Stan J. Caterbone. USPS Certified Mail, letter of June 15, 2007. Now I'm going to read what was published on August 22nd, 2016, titled The Serendipitous Reincarnation of COINTELPRO with the Cops Gang Stalking Program, Modern Diplomacy. In 1975, Senator Frank Church convened a joint senatorial congressional inquiry into the egregious human rights and civil liberties violations of the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and the National Security Agency, NSA, as well as the Federal Bureau of Investigation against people both foreign and domestic. Such blatant transgressions included the neutralization and elimination, quote-unquote, of political dissidents, enemies of the state, real or imagined threats to national security and anyone else on the proverbial shit list of the military-industrial complex. The Church Committee was the United States Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities, a U.S. Senate committee chaired by Senator Frank Church in 1975. A precursor to the U.S. Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. The committee investigated intelligence gatherings for illegality by the aforementioned agencies after certain activities had been revealed by the Watergate affair. Some famous examples have since emerged, including the FBI sending letters to Martin Luther King encouraging him to kill himself, or else they would tell the world about his sexual provocativeness. 2. The planned or successful assassinations of foreign leaders such as Fidel Castro, Patrice Lumumba, and countless other South American, Middle Eastern, or Asian leaders. 3. The wholesale undermining of entire foreign economies if they democratically elected someone at odds with the elite power structure deep inside the United States, such as which occurred against Salvador Allende of Guatemala. 4. The possible assassination of John F. Kennedy. 5. Civilian population. Revelations of Christopher Pyle in January 1970 of the U.S. Army spying on the civilian population. 6. The December 22, 1974 New York Times article by Seymour Hersh detailing operations engaging in by the CIA over the years that have been dubbed the Family Jewels, involving covert action programs involving assassination attempts against foreign leaders, and covert attempts to subvert foreign governments were reported for the first time. 7. Efforts by intelligence agencies to collect information on the political activities of U.S. citizens, and countless other examples both overseas and domestically. The end result of the Church Committee hearings was the outright banning on CIA assassinations, as well as the FBI, DOJ, COINTELPRO gang stalking programs. In 1975 and 1976, the Church Committee published 14 reports on various U.S. intelligence agencies' formations, operations, and the alleged abuse of law and the end of the power they had committed, with recommendations for reform, some of which were later in place. To put it simply put, This program that is harassing, stalking, vandalism in my home, hacking me, stealing documents, torturing me, and things like that, is essentially under the umbrella of the illegal COINTELPRO operations, where federal and local officials and police team up to carry out and implement these programs. Most of these neighbors around here that are stalking and harassing me are paid. It's well known by all the experts that study these programs. Again, this is Stan J. Caterbone, an advanced media group. It's 7:10 a.m. on Thursday, April 9th, 2020. I'm at 1250 Fremont Street in Leicester, Pennsylvania.